In this tutorial, we'll look at some of the finer and sometimes confusing points of positioning and rotating objects inside a Motion Builder scene. Before we can start working with objects, obviously we have to bring one into our scene. So let's open one of the zombies we've been working with. Right, we've brought the zombie in. If I were to try to simply translate it by selecting part of him and moving around, you see that actually I've managed to select half of his control rig, but not his feet. So when I'm moving back and forth, obviously his feet try to stay locked and the rest of the control goes back and forth. I'll hit Control Z and set him back. But if I was just displaying the zombie with the normal instead of X-ray display, and I click and drag and try to move him, you'll see that actually what's happening is I'm distorting the vertex. I'm not actually moving the zombie around. To be honest, right now, if you look here, I'm taking his middle finger and I'm twisting his fingers around. So let's put him back to the way he was. Undo. Right. So if I wanted to position the zombie, the safest way to do that would be to come down here to Scene. Normally I should be able to select his hips and move it, but you can see nothing's happening right now. The reason for that is that if you look over here under my character controls, you see that the zombie is being controlled by his control rig right now. So I would have to come down here to the zombie character control reference, select that, and then I can move the zombie and position him wherever I want. The situation is very similar if I take a different object. So let's take one of these sofas from our furniture kit and we drag it into the scene. Bring it in without any animation because it's just the model. Right, this gets a bit confusing because the model has come in, but it's not come into the center of the scene. If we go down to View and select Frame All, it shows us the entire scene and everything that's in it, so I can see that this model was saved someplace far over to, well, far along the x-axis, and a little bit down the z-axis. So if I want to take this sofa and move it into the center of the stage, or the center of the scene, you might be tempted to select it by drawing a, by selecting it through the viewer, and then trying to translate it. You'll notice that you've left a couple of sofa cushions behind. Control Z to set that back. But things get even more confusing if you try to select it and then rotate it before moving it. You'll notice that we've got different rotations happening on different parts of it, and some of the bits which I haven't actually managed to select aren't rotating at all. You can rotate across different axes, and you'll see everything's rolling and twisting separately. So let's hit Control Z to put everything back. Again, the solution to translating and rotating this is to come down here through the scene, expand the scene. You'll see that I can select the sofa itself. So if I now hit Translate, I can move the whole sofa into the middle of the scene, and if I go to Rotate, I can rotate the entire sofa and zoom in. I can also see that through my just clicking and dragging, I've not managed to rotate the sofa exactly the way I wanted to. The sofa has a little extra rotation, and I can come down here to this box in the bottom right hand corner of the viewer, and I can see that the sofa has not been perfectly rotated around the Y by me just using the mouse. So I can correct this by double clicking this box and typing in exactly the rotations that I want. And we get the sofa perfectly centered in the middle of the screen. I can do a similar thing with positioning him. I can say I want to make sure that he's exactly on the ground plane. Or 100, etc., etc. So I hope that makes things easier to understand. Again, the main strategy you should use is to come down here into the navigator. If navigator is not displayed, click on navigator, click on the cross to the left of the little teapot which says scene, and then click on the object that you want to move. Generally speaking, if you just have an object without a control rig, you should be able to select its hips. If you do have a characterized object with a character and or control rig, look for the control reference point, and that should allow you to position it and move it around. Right, so I hope that helps building your scenes.